No.
So thank you so much once again, Kenneth Mejia, for being with us here today. Um, you are running for LA City Controller. Therefore, our first question will be, can you tell us about yourself, your campaign, and why you are running for Los Angeles City Controller? For this question, you'll actually have 2 to 3 minutes.
All right. Hi, everyone. Hello to all the youth watching. Thanks for having me. My name is Kenneth Mejia, he, him. I am born and raised in Los Angeles, was raised specifically in Silmar in the San Fernando Valley. You know, a single mom who raised me and my three siblings. She taught us that hard work and education were what was needed in order to be successful in life. And, I definitely agree with that. Um, Throughout my whole entire life, it's always been about helping people. My mom always did a lot of work with helping those who were experiencing homelessness. Um, you know, that's what I wanted to get into in terms of organizing, which is around housing rights for tenants and also those who are experiencing homelessness. So I've been doing that since 2016. And then on the professional side, I decided to become an accountant because I like numbers, and accounting is all about knowing where your money's going. In addition, auditing the city is something that I'd like to do too, because I feel like a lot of departments need to be held accountable, and they're not being held to account. So I've been doing accounting and auditing for 11 years now. I'm a certified public accountant, and I started off as an auditor. And that's it, literally what the job of the city controller is. It's the city's accountant and auditor.
Thank you so much for that great introduction. Now I will pass it over to Ms. Crisanto to get us into the questions.
Hello, Kenneth. Again, thank you for being here. So my first question is, city finances can be hard for many people and young folks to understand, as well as difficult to gain access to. So my question is to you, how will you make the city budget and city finances transparent and easy for the general public to understand?
That is a great question. Right now, the city's finances are not easy to understand at all, let alone financial literacy is difficult. So our campaign has actually been doing a lot of work on education, doing Zoom classes, teaching people how to read city websites, how to read budget documents, pretty much doing the work of literally like being a teacher. And I think that's what we want to do in office. We've been using TikTok, Twitter, social media to get that done. So education and knowledge is power, definitely. That's what I want to do, and we've been doing it already.
Definitely, I agree with you. Educating the public and the fact that you made, these like things like viable to the public and for them able to gain access without having to go to other places or needing money to just so that they can understand what's going on. But thank you, and now I will pass it off to Jackie to ask you the next question.
Sorry, my thing is messing up. 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
All right, go ahead. Sorry.
You're good. Okay, so my question to you is, how do you plan to make it easier for communities to access records, information, or even ask questions about the city's financials without waiting months for accurate information?
Can you repeat that last part?
Accessing records, information, or even ask questions about the city's financials without waiting months for accurate information.
Yeah, so actually part of our goal is to make data super easily transparent in a time. The records that I get are unfortunately through public records requests, and I think that is such a huge waste of time. I think data should be readily accessible. So our campaign has actually made websites of city maps, of city spending. That is like one click button, and it's super easy to visualize and understand right away. So that's how I plan to do it, is making these easy to use websites that are, like I said, accessible and easy to understand. And we have already done that on our website.
Thank you for that, Kenneth. Yeah, I think it's really important that we make the information super accessible to everyone so that they know that information. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kenneth. So as you know, many people in Los Angeles have some maybe low knowledge about the role of an LA City Controller. So with that being said, why do you think that this position within LA City government is important, and how can it help create sustainable change?
Yeah, great question. I mean, this position is very important because, first of all, it's been around for over 100 years, but not many people know about it. It's literally on the same level as a city attorney and the mayor. And the reason why it's important is because we're in charge of all the city's finances, all in charge of the city's data. And this is data that can be used by you all to fight for community resources, for funding, for figuring out why your sidewalks are not being repaired or your trees are getting trimmed or why there's no affordable housing. That's what the city controller is there to do. He's the city's watchdog to hold the city accountable and to make that information out there and easily accessible and understandable. So that's why I think many people should pay attention to this role. And our campaign has done a great job in educating people about it and really reaching especially the youth via our TikToks, via our Twitter, pretty much through like text messages, through everything, and making this position known, more known than any campaign has ever.
Thank you so much, Kenneth. And yes, everything you mentioned is so true, because as me as a young person, like at first I was like, what is a city controller, right? And I feel like having access to like those TikToks, making it fun and easy for young people to understand is super important. And I feel like this position is something very important, to be able to be that liaison between the community and LA City Hall. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to Michelle C for our next question.
Thank you, Michelle. So for our next question is, as city controller, what changes will you advocate within City Hall to improve how the city funds youth? And how do you plan to hold the city accountable to these changes?
Yeah, so I want to use this office like more than no one has, like in a way that no one has ever seen before. You know, we have city controllers who are in there who have been buddy with the city council, with the mayor. And that's why a lot of people don't know about this position, but also why a lot of things are not changing. You know, if you look at the city's budget, the youth department, it gets so little. It's one of the tiniest departments that gets, 0% more of youth spending. It's still 0%. I would like to use this position to call out the city for the fact that there is an inequitable portion of money and funding going towards youth services, and call them out. And I think I'm not in there to make friends with City Hall. Like they should be making friends with you all. They should be the ones representing you all. And I think that's what's lacking. And that's what I hope to do as a city controller, and hopefully, push for that change in funding for you all.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, calling out the city and actually making them accountable for the decisions they make, especially within the budget, since the youth make up the majority of LA, and knowing that the city isn't spending adequate funds for them is really, concerning. But thank you again for your answer. And then I will pass it off to Jackie to ask you the next question.
Thank you, Michelle. So my question is, what actions would you take to get youth and community intentionally involved in the city budget process early on, and to uplift their recommendations and concerns to the city?
Right, that's a great question. I mean, I think the city needs to have more participatory budgeting. Right now, a lot of the budget being made, especially for the youth, are being made by like adults, by older people, by people in power behind closed doors. So I think there needs to be more calling out on the city for not having participatory budgeting or having the youth have a say. That's pretty much the biggest things, because I've seen the budget process, and you literally only have one month and 10 days to make your voices heard. Because right now we're in budget season, And pretty much it's these older folks who are making decisions for you all. And I think that's not acceptable. So I will call them out and make sure and try to push them to have more participatory budgeting.
Thank you for that, Kenneth. Yeah, I believe that it's very important that we get youth to participate in these conversations, though they may not directly be part of it, if that makes sense. But I do think it is also significant to hold our city accountable and let them know that our youth are a big part of this. So thank you. And I will pass over the next question to Araceli.
Thank you, Jackie. So this is going to be our last question. The question is, can you share with us any youth-related inequities / inequalities / gaps you have been able to identify within the city's budget history, including the recently proposed budget by the mayor? And what is your plan to help solve this?
Great question. I mean, I've put out literally a graphic, a bar chart of the city's budget, and I included youth development. And if you look at the bar chart, it compares youth development, housing, homelessness, transportation, and the police. So the police are getting $3.2 billion. And then you see youth development, you get this time. This is the department that's in charge of developing youth. And that is like literally just putting that bar chart together. It just shows how much the city cares about youth development, which is none. It's very little, to be honest. I think putting numbers out there in an objective manner, like what we do, speaks for itself, because you see this tiny sliver and then you have this big sliver of police spending, and it's like, well, a lot of the stops that police do deal with youth, and I think youth development is really crucial so that they don't have to be targeted by police, or that they have a future, that they have income, that they have a job, that they have an education. And if I think we invested more in youth and more in these programs and groups and park spaces, because youth touches everything. But I feel like if you also touch other city areas like housing, homelessness, the environment, that will also create a better environment for youth development. And all those combined are still way less than the LAPD. So that's how I've been able to call out these inequities and the inadequacies of youth funding, is just by putting data out there.
Thank you for answering that. Yes, exactly. So like the city sets its priorities on the budget, but then once the budget comes out, you're like, hold up, why are we the smallest budget? And I feel like that's one of the main reasons why the youth back in 2014 we wanted to start this youth department, because we're like, why is the majority of the budget going to LAPD? Like, if they start be incarcerated or be on the streets causing trouble, etc. So definitely that's why now we want to push to get more funding. So that concludes our Q&A. I want to give you another 2 minutes so you can go ahead and say a closing statement, anything that you want, highlight your campaign.
Well, thank you so much to the Youth Coalition Investing in Youth. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I think the youth are literally the driving force of this country, of this city, and you all are the ones who are going to hold the city accountable. You're going to hold me accountable, because this is your future. And the sad part about being a youth right now, being your age or being younger, is that there's not much left for you. We live in a city where there's extreme poverty. There's so many inequities. If you're Black or brown, you're pretty much getting, even shunned more by the system. And I think that's all a policy failure by our cities. And as city controller, I hope to point out those policy failures and also the inequity that we see with community resources and funding. Because if you spend more on something else, then you have less for more important things like youth development. And so I hope to be a liaison for the youth. I feel like I'm a youth. I look like a youth, but I'm in my mid-30s. You know, I hope to be there as a voice with you all and to work and co-govern hand in hand with all of you so that we do protect and we grow our youth and make sure they have a good future.
Thank you so much, Kenneth Mejia, once again for giving us the opportunity and time to be able to do this interview with you. You stated so many good points throughout this interview. It was great. We appreciate you. So we want to wish you the best of luck with your campaign, and to the audience that's going to watch this on our YouTube. We'll be adding his Kenneth Mejia's info on the description, such as social media and campaign website, so y'all can follow him. But thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.